Welcome to Total Leadership TV, and this afternoon I'm very pleased to welcome Tom Tierney, who is the chairman and co-founder of the Bridgespan Group and the former CEO of Bain & Company. Tom, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here, Stu.
Tom, let's start with perhaps just a brief description of what you're doing in your professional life these days. How do you spend most of your time?
Alrighty. Most of my time is, the vast majority of my time is spent helping to build Bridgespan. Bridgespan's a nonprofit organization that we incubated at Bain & Company. We spun it out of Bain & Company. Its mission is to help nonprofits succeed in their quest to serve society. So we do general management consulting, we do executive search, we do a lot of training and knowledge creation, and the idea is that we are providing, to some extent, integrated professional services to nonprofit organizations and foundations. We are ourselves a nonprofit. And so we attract people that have that kind of objective in their life to serve society, and we attract clients that want to dramatically improve their performance.
You were the CEO of a very successful consulting company and had helped to grow it in tremendous ways throughout the 90s as chief executive officer, and then in about 1999 you just stepped off that path. What led you to go from leading one of the great consultancies to starting this, quote, little charity, as I think you've referred to it as?
Well, at a distance it looks like an abrupt change that may have come out of right field if you weren't in my own shoes. But in my shoes, I've been thinking about this for years. Even, if I went all the way back to my childhood, my dad worked in a manufacturing plant. I didn't grow up aspiring to be a chief executive or run a great business like Bain. I grew up aspiring to do important things. And there was a part of me that always was oriented toward some of those important things being community-based, service-based. I've kept a journal for years. And in 1988, I found an entry where I talk about the Make a Difference Company. And I was dreaming in 1988 about creating an organization that would serve society. And I was running Bain & Company's San Francisco office at the time and kind of thinking, gosh, there's this platform and we're doing a few pro bono projects and I'm sitting on a nonprofit board, but couldn't there be more? Well, that idea in 1988 gestated and morphed in all kinds of different ways. And by 1996, so 8 years later, I was in a position to begin to study the nonprofit sector. Then I was running Bain and really analyze, was there an opportunity to create a new kind of company, a service firm that would dedicate itself to serving nonprofit organizations. 1996 through 1999, we raised money. My co-founder, Jeff Braddock, decided to join this. He left Harvard Business School. We received IRS approval to launch it, and so forth. And so what was launched in 1999 was a consequence of reflection, of seed planting almost, that went back at least a decade and probably even longer. My definition of success, as best as I can reflect upon it, has always been multidimensional. And I actually have data on this because I have kept a journal going all the way back to college. So when I graduated from college...
So how often do you enter in that journal? Just get a little more specific on this, because it really is a remarkable practice of yours.
I anchor the journal in an annual, my own, if you will, annual report. So
you do a personal annual report.
I'm not sure I would formalize it with quite that moniker, but essentially that's what it is. It is stepping back at the end of the year and asking myself, how did the year go? What did I do well? What did I do poorly? In hindsight, what could I have done differently? How well did I succeed across the various dimensions of my life, with my personal life, my not just family, but friends, my community? How well did I do at work? How well did I do with myself, spiritually, physically, and so forth? I've been thinking about this and asking myself at the end of each year, how did I do? Then I ask myself,
So you
What's
do that
the
in a solo kind of retreat?
all solo. I just lock myself
You go
away.
up to a mountaintop somewhere? And
I've done it differently every year. Sometimes I've left. Sometimes I've actually left my house.
Wow.
Sometimes I've stayed. Nowadays with family, I stay at the house. I just carve out the mornings. I find that I'm fresher in the morning. I'm a morning person, so I'll get up very early, 5 o'clock. Brew up a huge pot of coffee, go into my little office, and just write. And I don't write with the notion of it being legible or thoughtful for anybody else's eyes.
You.
It's just for me. And I look back at my what was a time manager that now is my my outlook. How did I spend my time? And I ask how I spent my time, and I ask how I'm doing, and then I ask, where am I going with all this? How am I thinking about the next year? What are my priorities for the next year? 5 years, 10 years? How am I thinking about my life? And I just write. So my journaling has been anchored in that kind of annual review or annual thinking or annual retreat, everyone would call it. But then I also write during the year. So I carry my journal with me. I end up flying cross country and things like that. I'll have my journal. I'll just sit and write. And I'm not writing about, here's what I did Monday morning. I'm writing, how do I think about this? Or over the last years with 2 kids, how's Colin doing? Or how's Braden doing? Or what's going on with my family? Or, how do I think about society? I'll have entries on all kinds of stuff. It's a way for me to talk to myself. What it has allowed me to do, however, in addition to talking to myself, is to sort of stay grounded. It's helped me stay grounded in who I really am. Yeah. And you ask the question about, why did I end up starting Bridgespan? I had to. It's who I am. If it hadn't have been Bridgespan, it would have been something else. There would have been some other form of public service. Maybe it would have been, serving on multiple boards, or maybe it would have been working for the Red Cross, or maybe it would have been doing something in the political sphere. But the way I was designed, with my own passions and view of the world and my upbringing, I was, in my life, if I had an opportunity, going to contribute to society somehow. In the old days, I say old days, when I was growing up, I remember a professor telling me that there was this way of thinking about life, that you have a phase of learning, you're in school, you're learning, and then you have a phase of earning, so you're working and you're just making money and putting that money in the bank and getting a house and paying for the kids' college, and then after the learning bit is done and the earning bit is done, you do the serving bit.
A lot of people still hold that.
Learn, earn, serve.
Learn, earn, serve.
Learn, earn, serve.
What's wrong with that model?
Well, it's flawed. I mean, now, first of all, it's simple-minded. So, and obviously there are years when you tend to work. You're not working when you're 10 as much. But the fact is, you ought to be learning continuously. You earn, but you earn in different ways and different amounts. The notion of the money always getting bigger every year, I think, is an outdated notion. Compensation can go up and down. If you get locked into an aspiration for ever increasing compensation, that becomes a bit of a prison for you, a set of handcuffs. And then serving, why does serving wait till you're 65 or 70? Aren't we all serving all the time? Every day, aren't we serving the mission of the organization? Aren't we serving our family? Aren't we helping to serve our community if we go to church or synagogue or we volunteer? Isn't that all service? Of course it is. So the reality is those three are commingled.
All the time.
All the time.
Although perhaps in different measure, at different
stages.
phases
of life. Different phases of life. If you're 26 and you don't have a family and you're full force, you can work 24/7. If you're 36 and you have bunches of young kids, it's sometimes harder to work 20, and you shouldn't maybe be doing that 24/7 stuff. And so learning, serving, and that serving bit was just important to me, and I wasn't going to leave it for the dessert at dinner. I wanted it as part of the main course. And so that led me, that realization that there was this need that I had, led me to begin to lead pro bono projects at Bain, led me to serve on nonprofit boards, led me to do a lot of volunteering work to explore that. And I did this throughout. I don't remember, it's hard for me to remember when I didn't serve in some capacity, formal or informal, in something that was bigger than just me, some cause, organization, people that I cared about.
So that's always been this notion of service in different forms, in different venues, has always been a part of who you are. Does that go back to like when you were a kid?
You know, it must go back to when I was a kid. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't care about myself. Of course I care about myself. I'm competitive. I want to succeed. I want to achieve. I want to be recognized. I want all those things. But there has been a part of me that, as long as I can remember, that was also about the other guy. It was also helping. I'm sure that one of the reasons I was attracted to consulting is that it's kind of a helping profession. Sure. You're helping other people succeed. One of the reasons I was attracted to general management is it felt to me like my mission as an executive was to create an environment where other people can succeed. And if you're really helping other people succeed, guess what happens? It's okay for you. You succeed too. And I just have always been oriented toward service. And I frankly think that the great executives that I've seen, the great leaders that I've seen, and I don't think I'm a great leader, but what I've learned from observing them is they tend to be focused less on themselves and more on others and bigger issues.
Bigger than themselves, bigger than their
bigger
immediate
than themselves,
circle.
bigger than just me. They're at a minimum worried about we, and they're often worried about we in the context of something that goes beyond quarterly earnings. You know, it goes back to a built to last kind of mentality, but it's the mentality is that you're doing something special that transcends your selfish needs at any point in time. And again, all of us have selfish needs, so it's not ignoring those. It's complementing those
Sure.
with something that's beyond just you.
And that helps you to inspire other people, doesn't it? Or you've probably felt that same sense of wanting to help other people who you see serving some larger purpose or cause. That there must have been models for you from which you learned that's a good way to go.
I've had a number of mentors. I've been very fortunate to have mentors throughout my life, and one of the first was a fellow named Charlie Lynch, who was chief executive of Saga Corporation. When I was a young consultant, he was my client, or he was Bain and Company's client, and I was just a youngster. And I remember him talking to me about your Goodwill account, and what he meant by that was not an accounting, characteristic, but what are you doing to create goodwill with others? And the way you create goodwill with others is to help other people. You don't do it by being selfish. And that in fact that goodwill account carries with you year after year, and there are kind of network effects to a goodwill account. In other words, if you try to do right by other people, guess what? Word gets around. And it compounds
it's your reputation.
itself. It is your reputation. They always say, it's important who you know. Yeah, it's really important who knows you, and it's really important what they think of you. And this notion of you've got a goodwill account out there that is either compounding in a positive way or a negative way, and it's based upon relationships where you're actually in service to someone else. That is a powerful, powerful approach to success. And it's not
Personal success.
Personal
by
success.
By whatever measure.
And it's not, this is not a major insight. It's the golden rule.
Yeah,
right?
I was just
the
thinking,
golden rule.
this is a precept of most of the world's religions, right?
Absolutely. It's absolutely a foundation of virtually every religion in the world. If you treat people well, that comes back in many ways.
So this is a basic business idea for you.
It's a basic life idea.
So,
it's a basic life idea. I think it transcends business. It's business. It's community. It's every dimension. If you treat people the way you want to be treated, if you treat them with respect, if you show them trust and caring, and you don't try to impose yourself on them, but you treat them as a peer, no matter who they are. My dad talked to me about this year after year. He'd say, just because somebody's working on a manufacturing line doesn't mean they're not as good as somebody else. Maybe they're better. Don't confuse somebody's business card with somebody's worth as an individual. Don't ever do that.